Hello everyone. And this video is going to be the first video of a series of videos I'm going to make called Plants for Shrimp Tanks, and this one's going to be about jungle val. I've had some requests lately to do some plant profile type videos, and so I'm going to give you guys what you want to see. Alright, so what is jungle val? Jungle val, or sometimes just called Vallisneria, there's several types of it, is an aquatic grass-like plant that is often called or referred to as eelgrass or tape grass. And the neat thing about it, it can even take a little bit of salt. So it can grow in slightly brackish conditions. That's something neat to know. So that means it thrives in hard water with lots of minerals. If you have a pH below 7, I'm willing to bet jungle val or Vallisneria in general is not going to do real good for you. So naturally, if you picture an underwater meadow, that is what you would see in a idealistic Vallisneria setting in the wild. So like maybe on like the freshwater side of an estuary environment where it's still mostly fresh, a little bit of salt, and you have great big underwater meadows of jungle val with critters like manatees possibly, just munching away on it. They provide grazing for the larger animals. The smaller animals breed. It's a nursery. It's food. It's a very productive underwater environment in the wild. And so jungle val is a pretty neat plant when you think about it in that sense. Worldwide, there are many different species of Vallisneria. Some of the most popular species in the hobby sold as jungle val are Gigantea and Americana. Another species, Spiralis, with coiled leaves, known in the hobby as corkscrew or spiral val. So what does jungle val like? What do we need to have to grow jungle val in our tanks? Well, like I mentioned before, they like hard water, so you definitely are going to want to have a lot of minerals in your tank, in your water, and a pH above 7. When it comes to light, Vallisneria is fairly undemanding. It does appreciate more light, but it can do pretty good in lower light settings, which makes it a good candidate in our shrimp tanks. Fertilizer, it is a root feeder, but it does appreciate nutrients in the water column as well. But most of my tanks, I do not fertilize it, and it does just fine. I do give it a little bit of fertilizer in another tank, and it really thrives. So all in all, I guess you could say it's a pretty undemanding plant. So now that we've talked about all the basics of it and the requirements, I'm going to show you. So now I'm going to show you how it is in the real life in my tanks. Okay, so remember what I said about it being a root feeder. This is what happens when it comes uprooted, but it still keeps growing. Look at all these little baby runner plants I got popping up everywhere. Look at this. Now this tank has both spiral val and the jungle val. Look at these little baby spirals. Little baby plants have come uprooted. It's getting so thick back here. So in the wild, what this would happen, this would break off, and this would go floating around and get stuck in a rock or something. And boom, that would end up taking off. So when they get too thick, there's nowhere for the daughter plants. That's what these are called. Now, when you have plenty of room to spread, like right here, we pull this up and you see, where's this one coming? It's already sending one over this way, and it's coming. My wife is helping me film, and she can't quite get this. You can see where this is going. Then when you want to propagate it, just pinch it off, and then this is what you got. So if I wanted to remove some of those and put them over here, I could just take the whole shebang over here and stuff them in the substrate. Like I said, this thing has spiral valve and jungle valve. I'm trying to keep most of this right here up front spiral valve, but as always, it's a really hard plant to tame. So you can either let jungle valve go crazy. Remember when I said it's like an underwater grass that lots of critters like to graze on? It does not mind being chopped right off, just like that. So you can trim it, and when you trim it, the only thing it's going to do is going to spread like wildfire, depending on how much light and nutrients it has. But when you trim this stuff up like this, it is going to make it spread like crazy. And when you're done doing this, you have a heck of a mess to clean up. So you can make it look all nice and uniform if you want, which is going to be super hard to do long term. If you wanted to put in the time and dedication into it, you could trim this into like a medium, mid-ground, background. You can keep it nice and neat and trimmed up. Gotta be careful I don't snip any of the power cords back here. And this patch of mainly spiral valve up front, I might go ahead and give that a trim as well. There's the power cord. I need to not cut the pump. Alright, so there's that. And I'm not going to trim this right now because I put an algae wafer here for the video. And I'm not trying to cut little shrimpies. So now it looks nice and neat. I'll stand back and fix my screw ups. And now it looks a lot more tame. And it'll spread like crazy now. So this is my 29-gallon Panda Guppy tank with a bunch of jungle valve, and this tank has Eco Complete, and I put in plant spikes underneath the crypts for the crypts, but the jungle valve ends up still in it. When I set this tank up, I even put in a barrier that goes all the way across the back of the tank, because when I built this tank, the whole plan was to be a crypt background, or crypt background, a jungle valve background, with the front being crypts. What is happening though, the jungle valve, it's jumping its border, because jungle valve is very hard to maintain, and it's taking up the entire surface of the water, which is making my crypts get leggy and reach and affecting the crypts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same thing, give this tank a good trim. And here we are with the 29. Looking pretty good. It's a little bit stirred up from pulling up the unwanted crypts or unwanted jungle val. And I even found some crypts growing in the jungle val space. So I'm going to do some uprooting and replanting crypts and pulling the jungle val and putting it in a bucket. That looks pretty good. Now the jungle val will get really thick. It'll grow like crazy in both these tanks. And until that happens, the Florida Sunset crypts will enjoy the extra light. They're not getting overran by the jungle val. So, hope you guys enjoyed this little video I made. Now I will say one thing that you want to think twice about when you use jungle val in shrimp tanks, and that is if you're going to be doing a tank where you are going to be doing a bunch of selective breeding, then you're not going to want to have too much jungle val going on, because you're not going to be able to call or get unwanted shrimp. So in this tank, my 29 gallon tank, it's just a panda guppy tank, and there's a few shrimp in there, and this is just a mixing shrimp colors special project, trying to make some red rillies and blue red rillies and plecos, so we don't have to do any really selective breeding. And if you're doing selective breeding, you might want to think twice about jungle val, because it's unruly, it's wild, it goes where it wants to go, and it's going to take a lot of work to keep it all tame and nice and neat. So basically, I think these guys are good. This plant is good to just be in a tank that you're going to let grow wild, let nature do its thing, and enjoy the jungle val, because it's a pretty unruly plant. It's awesome, but it's really going to prohibit you from doing selective breeding with your shrimp. So keep that in mind. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.